Good morning and welcome to the Killik & Co market update. This week we had inflation data from both the UK and the US, both of which showed a decline in the annual inflation rate. Here we've got the UK inflation going back to 1989, and while our inflation is clearly still uncomfortably high at 10.1%, you can see we've now had 3 consecutive months of falling inflation. Markets reacted well to these inflation figures from the UK, and they caused the FTSE 100 to go through 8,000 for the very first time ever. We can also look at the breakdown of the UK inflation data to see how prices are moving for different products and services. On here we've got the December data in pink and the January data in green. The headline data for inflation is at the very top, and you can see there's been a small drop. Below that we've got food inflation, still very high at 16.7%, and in the middle there you can see that inflation for housing and household services is the highest element, up 26.7%. On the subject of food price inflation, this week McDonald's announced that it would be raising the prices of several key items, as you can see on this slide here. You can see the mayo chicken, for example, is going up by over 20%. So we are starting to see some very real-life examples of food price inflation. There have been several headlines in recent weeks about the so-called Chinese spy balloon that was shot down over the US, in addition to several other high-altitude objects. This week, President Biden has confirmed that the sensors from that balloon have been retrieved. It's thought that the balloon was being used to spy on US military sites, which China has clearly denied. Nevertheless, the ongoing threat of China makes clear the need for an ongoing focus on spending on defense. Defence shares have clearly performed very well in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. However, many of these companies are off their record highs following reports of cost inflation and supply chain problems. Here's the chart, for example, for Northrop Grumman, which is a major US defence company. Please do give us a call if you'd like to talk about our thoughts on defence companies in more detail. And finally, Airbnb has published very strong results this week, reporting that 2022 was its first ever profitable year. The shares are up 60% so far this year. The company reported that the supply of properties coming onto its site has been very strong, demand from guests has been very strong, and also that there's been a clear return in the demand for international travel. Evidence suggests that the cost of living crisis is causing consumers to cut back in many areas, but demand for travel still seems to be very resilient. Moving on to have a look at next week, we've got results due out from Rio Tinto, Nvidia and TJX. That's it from us. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.